Greetings. This is General CJG here, coming to you with another Expanded Universe State of Star Wars podcast. This one is a bit special one because it's on one of the early Dark Horse comics that pretty much laid the foundation for an entire era in the Star Wars EU timeline. So, with that, joining me here are
Greetings, mortals. This is the Shadow King, King Nazru. I have once again deigned that I should redo one of these Star Wars podcasts.
Then, of course, is
This is the Spider-Man Maniac. Good to be here.
and returning after a long while.
Hey guys, Django Fett here, and since I would describe myself as the Tales of the Jedi mega fan, I have to talk about more Tales of the Jedi.
Indeed. So, yeah. And today we're going to be tackling Tales of the Jedi, starting with the first story arc by release order, by the way. We're not going in chronological order. The first one is Ulic Qel Droma and the Beast Wars of Onderon. It's 2 issues, so this won't necessarily be a long one. So, without further ado, who wants to do the summary for the first issue on Tales of the Jedi?
I can do it.
Okay, nice. Go.
So, this is set 4,000 years before the Battle of Yavin. We have Ulic fighting against the droid, and then we have Qel Droma, his brother, and then we also have Toth Danita, Twi'lek, watching him as he's able to take out this droid, but he gets a little overconfident, and the droid actually knocks him down. And we also have his Jedi Master, Arca Jeth, who is a very powerful Jedi as well. And after Ulic is just thrown down, they have some time to relax, and Arca Jeth asks them to sit down, and he tells the story of Onderon, the history of Onderon, which is a very brutal history of the planet itself, very violent. And it starts with the Duxan creatures, giant creatures that inhabit Duxan, and they actually go to Onderon every now and then. They migrate to the planet to feast, and they encounter humans there who are just, doing their business, and they just, every time, they seem to swarm these humans and practically destroy them. And over time, these humans have begun to adapt and fight back against these creatures. And then it comes to a point where the humans have advanced, where they're actually wielding guns, and they have this giant walled fortress, and they become this big civilization on this city called Isis. And over time, they have come to a point where they've had to get rid of some of the prisoners there and just throw them out into the wilds. And these prisoners were just eventually just executed by the creatures, the Duxan creatures that would come from Duxan and just attack them. And they were seen as weak and feeble at first, but they've slowly become to adapt and capture the creatures and learn to ride them, which is really cool. And they become these warlords and a really powerful civilization of their own. And they are like the Beast Riders, and they have been attacking the walled fortress of Isis. And they've been doing raids, and they've been the people of Aziz have also been adapting with these giant guns, and so it's just been a big conflict that's been going on. And Arca just tells them that they have to figure out how to solve this solution. So they're actually being sent to go to that planet and figure out a way to peacefully save that planet from the conflict and prevent a war, just try to find peace through that planet. So he sends the 3 Jedi to there. He doesn't get involved in that. So he sends them off on this mission. And as these Jedi are going there, they are actually attacked by the Beast Riders at first. And the Beast Riders actually get repelled by the walled defenders of Aziz, and they land. Now, as soon as they come, they actually are pretty super racist, I must say, the Aziz people. They attack Toth right away, because they're humans and they're not used to seeing other races and species out there. They're just used to humans.
Lol.
And they attack him. They tackle him practically. And the Jedi are just like, don't do that shit. We have lightsabers. We can just, like, you're breaking the peace agreement and you're making shit worse. And they are actually sent to the throne to see Queen Amanoa. So they see Queen Amanoa, and then there's also the daughter Galia, who's also with them as well. And they talk, and they say that just to ask how things are going, and they eventually things get worse, and the Beast Riders come and just barrel right through the palace, and they attack everyone, and they capture Princess Galia, and the Jedi try to fight them back, but it's just too late at this point. So they have to be sent on the mission to recover Princess Galia from the Beast Riders. So they're pretty much sent, and as they're driving, using their ship to get to where Princess Galia is or where the Beast Riders are supposedly are, they are attacked and they supposedly crash. And that's the end of that issue.
So, what do you guys think of this first issue? The beginning of the Old Republic, basically.
Now, before one thing, we have to notice that this thing somehow came before the prequels, but it's still before the prequels. So everybody, don't get confused. That's just how the publishing timeline works.
Okay, so what that one means is that this comic was not only in real life made years before the prequels, 1993, but it's also set chronologically many years before the prequels. So that's what he means. So with that in mind, what do you guys think of this?
I think it's a great start, telling the brutal history of Onderon, which is super interesting. And I do wish in Coder 2 they kind of expanded upon it a little bit more, but it is whatever. But in this, it tells like this great history. The Beast Riders, you have the city there, and I love Arca Jeth. I mean, it's just a great start with Ulic being this charismatic hero, and it's a very interesting, very very interesting start so far, I must say.
I mean, yeah, you could see that he has good intentions, but you could say that he's also a little cocky and trying to
Brad,
compensate.
yeah.
He feels that because this is not only a quest for peace, but this is also supposed to be their trial to prove that they're worthy to become Jedi Knights.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they even at one point asked maybe they should get their master involved, and he doesn't want to because it would be a sign that they're not ready to take on these responsibilities. So he just wants to handle it himself, but that's not going to go all too well.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I have to talk about it from a perspective who played the Knights of the Old Republic games before read this comic, because it was actually interesting to see all those things and the backstory. I didn't actually know, because in the game it also mentions the Beast Riders. I never know what they were doing. I mean, they had all the huge beasts around Onderon, and now I get to know what these Beast Riders actually do. And I keep hearing references to Ulic Qel Droma and Exar Kun, or Exar Kun much later. But I get to know who these people are, so from that perspective, it's actually interesting. But towards the ends of the comic, the Queen said something like, "Curse you in the name of freedom, Nod," which I don't think is the smartest thing you should say when Jedi are visiting your planet. Why would you do that, Queen?
Oh, don't worry. We'll get into that in the next issue.
I mean to be fair, I mean these are Jedi Padawan, and Freedom Nad wasn't that well known at this time. I mean, especially if like Padawan, maybe like they were like knights or masters, that would have been a really dumb move.
Mm-hmm. We'll get our answers to that in the next issue. Now, for me, for the first ever issue on detailing the old Republic era of Star Wars, it definitely was very interesting. It's definitely a much different vibe, as well as setting, and also a different type of conflict compared to what we were used to in Star Wars in this time. Because this is 1993, and we only had like the Tron trilogy. I think the Jedi Academy. No, the Jedi Academy trilogy probably came a few years later. We did have Dark Empire, and I think that was it. Oh, and the Marvel comics, of course, and the original trilogy. So this definitely was very new and everything. Now, I won't talk about the art style because I think we should talk about that when we finish the second issue. So there is that. But overall, yeah, I think the story here definitely is very interesting, very compelling start. So, anything else to say on this issue?
Oh, by the way, we could also see that through the civilization, there's actually guns featured, like the Django mentioned, but we can see that these guns don't exactly look like blasters. They look like actual real life guns. Don't you guys think? Like, these guns obviously do not fire lasers, which I find interesting.
Well, actually, the comic says that their technology basically advanced. That basically they did use gunpowder cannons, but they later replaced them with some sort of wave weapons. So it seems that at first they did use actual guns with gunpowder, but now they replaced them with actual lasers.
I mean, in general, you don't see a lot of actual projectile-based weapons in Star Wars.
No,
Every
we don't.
time you see a gun, it's either this. It's either a red laser, a blue laser, or a green laser, or sometimes sonic. So it's actually interesting to see a real gun for once in these materials.
The only times I can think of where we see Star Wars guns using something like shells is something like shotguns. For example, the Trandoshan shotgun from Republic Commando. So there is that. Anything else to mention on this issue?
Don't think.
Okay. Well, now we get to the second issue, the second part of the story arcs, basically. So, you want to do the honors again, Django, or you want to do it, Doan or King?
Yeah, I don't mind doing it again.
Okay. Well, then Django, go ahead.
All right, so we begin with issue 2, where the ship that was shot down in the last issue is crashing down and almost kills them, but they are fine. And Toth meets with a legendary Boma beast. This is actually pretty cool. Toth actually communicates with the beast, and through communication can now ride him. Him and the rest of the Jedi can do that. And what's cool is that in Coder 2, you can actually do the same thing where you can subdue him and have them fight with you, which I thought was a really cool nod.
Interesting.
So they get these Boma beasts to be on their side, so they ride them into the Beast Riders' headquarters, and they actually get Princess Galia, and she tells them that, I don't want to be rescued. And they're like, huh? You were just captured. And so she kind of has to explain her and the one person she's going to marry, Oren Kira, who is a warrior with the Beast Lords, with his father, Moden Kira. And yeah, they fall in love and they want to just have a alliance together where they can just live together in harmony. But there are forces that want to prevent that. So they kind of just tell, like, oh, there's kind of something messed up going on in at the city, the walled city. And they tell that there's the dark side is pretty eminent over there. And that they have to go to war with Easy's and attack that place. So they kind of just go along with it, and they say, okay, well, we'll go with you guys, and we'll help you attack the fortress. So they actually go back all together, the 3 Jedi, along with Galia. They travel along with the ship, and they try to talk to the Queen, but she is pretty mad, as you can see, with the dark side. And she calls upon the spirit of Frieden Nad, who we can explain a little bit later. And she is filled with the dark side, and they get attacked by the temple guard. And so they're kind of like, they feel like they're like trapped over there. And then the beast lords come. They gather like this giant army, and they attack the walled city. And there is this huge, crazy battle that ensues with the Beast Riders, the huge force that they have against the walled city. And huge battle, epic in fashion. And we see also Kay just trying to help the situation, but this is going to be a recurring theme with Kay. I cannot say anything more. He gets shot in one of his hands. It is his left hand, and his hand gets sliced off, and he cries out in pain. And yeah, of course, I mean that's pretty painful. And then later on, he has to. I mean, it helps you that you're a Jedi. You can go through the pain, but he's able to get a nearby droid and get the arm of the droid and put it on his own arm, which is pretty incredible. It's pretty powerful stuff. I mean, a regular human could not do what he's doing. But anyway, the battle still ensues, and it looks like things are not going the way that they're expecting. So the defenders, the walled city of Aziz, are winning against the Beast Riders, and it seems like it's the dark side has just weakened the Beast Riders, and so that's why they're winning, the defenders. And it isn't until this ship appears and the things sway into the other direction with the Beast Riders. And that ship is Arca Jet's ship. And he tells them that he's uses his battle meditation in his favor, and that's why they won. And he tells them that, hey, you guys, especially you, Ulic, you failed. You failed utterly. And he says that the dark side is at work here. You should have sensed it the moment you arrived, and which they didn't from the city. It probably, I mean, it's pretty evident there. And I mean, Arca could sense it from, I don't even know where he was, but he sensed it like immediately. He says, I meditated the fight, influencing its outcome using a Jedi's mental powers was his battle meditation. And they eventually confront the queen, and she's at the tomb of Frida Nad, which is, eventually becomes her grave as she just eventually just keels over because of the light from Arca Jet. And eventually Arca goes and finds the tomb and opens the tomb and takes the lightsaber of Frida Nad from his corpse and says to Princess Galia that you guys are free now. And the princess and the Beast Lords marry, and they have this alliance. So now that they're together, there can be peace now, or so you hope. And you see everyone celebrate. You have Kay has his new arm, and he says, "Anybody up for arm wrestling?" and then Ulic talks to Arca, and he says, Frida Nad was a Jedi, and they find out he's a Jedi. And how did he fall? And Arca responds, "It's happened more than once. Fortunately, it does not happen often." And he says, "Ulic, my son, pray that it never happens to you." So, and then we end it off there. It's very important that you guys hear that I wanted to say that. But yeah, that's the end of the issue right there.
Okay, so that's the end of this story arc. So, guys, what do you think of this?
Even during this period of time, the Jedi Masters pull this bullshit, The type of thing I'm talking about is say the most biggest things in the world and hopes their apprentice to understand what the hell they're talking about type of training. Like, you didn't do as I intended. Like, how was Ulic supposed to sense that? How was Ulic supposed to know what Arca was like? Yeah, these Jedi Masters, even back then, they didn't make the most sense, it seems.
I think it would have helped if Arca had taught him to, like way before this mission happened, that he should have taught them to sense the dark side whenever they're in whatever planet or place or whatever, or at least have some sort of sense ready to perceive the dark side. So probably one part where Arca failed and teach them, and hence why Ulic and the others were unable to detect the dark side until it was too late.
But it's like, if you think about it, like you're used to the light side, but if you come into especially when you run into the temple and you're like standing with the queen or around the presence of Frida Nad, it's pretty evident like the dark side is just like almost like cloaking you, like it's almost wants to swallow you whole, and if you feel different as a Jedi.
Not to mention the dark side users are able. I mean, certain dark side users are skilled enough to cloak their presence in the dark side. So only like people like who are like high Jedi Knight or Jedi Master level will be able to detect it. But here we have Padawans; they don't have that kind of experience.
Yeah.
And that's Arca's fault. He should have prepared them more, just like Doan said.
Yeah,
I
or
mean,
at
you
least
have to
accompanied
think,
them
you
at
have
the
to know.
beginning.
Queen Amanoa is like the official leader of Onderon. I mean, why would a leader of a certain nation purposely reveal herself or leave any indication that she's a Sith or a Darksider when a Jedi visits? This stuff doesn't make any sense if you
I
think about it.
Well, think about it. Arca was not there. She probably already assumed, oh, we're gonna kill them all. And they were gonna do it if it wasn't for Arca's intervention. So she could have won, actually, since the very beginning. It's just that Arca's intervention pretty much changed the tide of the battle.
Oh, and then there's Freedom Nod, which we don't get anything out of them until, was it the Golden Age of the Sith, I guess? Was that?
No, it's
There's that, but the later story arcs definitely will reveal more about him. So,
Yeah, you get more in the Frida Nat uprising part of the section. Yeah, that's like issue I think 5 or 6. That's when they start doing that.
don't worry, we'll get to that story arc in a later date. Not too soon.
But I do find it interesting that we finally, well, at least people in the 1990s, got a Sith Lord besides Vader. While in the 1990s, Palpatine wasn't classified as Sith, so he doesn't count.
Well, didn't Return of the Jedi show us that he pretty much was a Sith,
No.
fighting and shit?
The EU sources made it really, really weird and just describe him as an ex-Jedi or some kind of dark Jedi, while constantly calling Vader a Sith. So no, he wasn't a Sith.
That's weird because in episode 6, he pretty much was like the master and everything. Even Vader treated him as his master. So that's some weird shit that he was trying to pull, but the movies pretty much say, yeah, he was pretty much Sith, or at least Vader's master. So
I mean, what I really did like about these two issues is that the situation wasn't as cut and dry as we thought it was going to be. We thought this was just going to be a typical diplomat mission, and these Jedi younglings were just going to have to figure out how to resolve it peacefully without causing a war incident. But then we learned that the side that they thought was good was actually serving the Sith. So that kind of subverted expectations without ruining the story.
there is that, yeah. I think now we should discuss the art style since we've pretty much finished both issues. Guys, what do you think of the art style?
The art style is fine. Now, what is notable is the architecture and the way people dress, which is a constant thing you can see in these timelines. Now, I'm going to talk about other EU for a while. So, at this point, these people dress like they're in ancient whatever your country, that's for sure. And then if you look at Knights of the Old Republic, they're in the future. And then, let's see, more like 2,000 years later in Bane, Jedi vs. Sith, they're wearing clothes from the ancient Greek or Rome. So
I'd say there's also a little bit of like Central South American influence. Like I could see some stuff like Aztec or Incan stuff, especially with the people of Isaacs who worship Frida Nad. There's a lot of those things, especially with their pyramids.
Yeah.
and the Beastmasters or the Beast Lords are pretty much just like mercenaries. You know, they're like they equip like these modern future-esque guns that have like a very modern style to them. But they're pretty much out in the wild. They can't have like the civilization and talk to the galaxy. But it does say that they have interacted with some off-world traders, giving them some like weaponry and stuff. But that's like the extent to how they are. They just completely different from the people of the walled city.
and I saw that the lightsabers also look different. They had this
Yeah.
weird pointy stuff between the blades, like left and right, which I don't know what's the purpose of that.
They look
These
very
lightsabers look really impractical.
they look very ancient. Like really ancient.
But if you go to like in a few years, like 30 or 30 something years, and go to Knights of the Old Republic, now they're suddenly holding modern lightsabers that look like likes you from the prequels. So, I mean, how technology gets involved in this universe, who knows?
We'll have to see when we get into the later story arcs of those the Jedi. I think towards the later ones, maybe we'll see the art style get closer to Knights of the Republic. We'll see.
I mean, I probably do have an explanation, but we're gonna have to wait until like we get into like the EU connections.
Or at least with the other story arcs, when we get to much closer into the timeline of Kodor.
And then there's also this weird blaster that somehow looks like a crossbow, but isn't. These weapons look kind of weird. Like, yeah, I kind of hope when I first read these stories, I kind of hope that the visual art styles look more like the prequels, but for first-time readers, it might look weird because it kind of is.
Well, as far as I know, this art style is not terrible. But yeah, there are those few times that maybe you can't tell if it is Star Wars or if it is another franchise entirely. It is still a Star Wars story, and it still pretty much feels like it is in the Star Wars universe, but the visuals definitely at times seem like it's another sci-fi universe. So I definitely think that the art style will definitely get much better as we go on in the story arcs. The closer we get to the 2000s, definitely. So,
Yeah.
but the art style is not the worst. It's far from the worst. So
Yeah, so the fanboy in me, I love it. I love the old '90s style. I feel like modern art is kind of like it's gone pretty bad nowadays. But I miss the old '90s style, and I actually think like especially like the war, like the battles that go on, they really like put the art to like just to another level for me. It's just really cool to see like some of the backgrounds for like when they're flying and they're just shooting and there's like some like there's a lot of detail in the buildings and like the explosions and like the weapons and stuff. It's like I mean you don't see that stuff like nowadays. Like it's pretty cool for me.
And this is more like the comics during the time, but I do like
Yeah.
the fact that these color are not digitized. What I mean is like these colors seems like a colorist individually colored them. What do you guys think about that?
it's
Yeah.
it's very possible because there's actually like 2 to 3 people that are credited for the visuals. There's the penciler Chris Gossett, then there's the inker Mike Barrero, and then there's the colorist Pamela Rambo. So it's 3 people.
Right.
You don't see these type of colors. You see in nowadays comics, if you read it, it's like full with these bright, obviously digital colorings, which isn't really appealing to the eye that much.
Either that or it's an art style that has already been used so much in modern comics that you pretty much don't see much any new things. A good example of that would be a good chunk of the Disney Star Wars comics where most of the art style is either the same or it's slightly worse. But it's pretty much identical. Like there are some great art styles in some of them, like Shattered Empires, but there are some others that the art style pretty much feels like it's either been recycled or just copy pasted. So I can definitely give this comic Tales of the Jedi credit on being unique. So I can at least give it that. So there's that.
Yeah.
Anything else to mention on issue 2 or the entire story arc?
I mean, as far as the art style goes, I mean, like new readers might feel like it's a bit dated, but if they take like it's the '90s, it's kind of okay. And like Django said, I might have a slight bias towards this old art style since I was born in the '90s and I was kind of accustomed to it. Plus, again, Django said, modern art is pretty hit or miss. Sometimes it's really good, and other times it looks like something a middle school student could have done for free.
I don't think the art style is dated. The issue with it is that at times it feels like it's another sci-fi universe. I understand the inspirations and the approach they were at, but there are those few times that it does feel like it's another sci-fi universe, like those few panels.
I'm not saying that. I mean, saying it feels dated compared to like if someone reads like is so used to reading modern comics where there's a lot the colors are much brighter and it feels more. I don't know how the best way to describe it. And they look at this and it just feels not as bright and colorful as a modern comic.
Well,
If you've read the stuff with Darth Krayt and Kate Skywalker, and then you went back to this, you kind of be turned off by just how old this art style looks. That's what I kind of meant.
Maybe, but I think that's more just people not used to reading stuff from the 90s.
It's kind of odd when they show the tomb of Freedom Nod. It describes that the Freedom Nod is an ancient Sith Lord, but these people already look ancient enough. So who are you calling other person's tomb or a Sith ancient? Like, I almost thought the tomb and these Jedi were in the same era because how old they look.
Well, that's probably more the visual style itself. I will say this: I do prefer more the art style of Dark Empire, like Dark Empire 1 and 2. Done by Cam Kennedy. I actually do think that holds up better age-wise because I think that is so much more slick and cool, and definitely fits very well the tone for that. And that definitely still feels a lot more like Star Wars compared to this art style. So I do prefer that one more, but I still think this art style is still good. Got no real big negatives on it, other than a few times it does feel like it's another sci-fi universe, but that's it.
It's still written by the same guy. Realize that, Tom Beich.
Yeah, true. That's hence why the story is pretty damn good. But the artist is different, so that's why I had to mention that. So there is that. Anyway, so anything else to mention, guys, on these issues?
I remember seeing the scene where Arca tells Ulic, like, what's it? Be careful so you do not turn to the dark side. I mean,
Foreshadowing.
this is not a spoiler because it was intentionally put like that to imply that he's gonna turn to the dark side.
Or at least test him to see if he turns or not. So we'll definitely have to see in the later story arcs. So there's that. Anyway, so I think now it will be a great time to go into the expanded universe connections. And okay, so this being Tales of the Jedi, prepare to hear a shit ton of EU connections because, oh boy, so who wants to begin with the EU connections? Because Tales of the Jedi, just these two issues, we have plenty. So
I mean, the most relevant and recent connection is to Star Wars: The Old Republic, especially with the recent stories that they've been doing with Jedi Under Siege, Onslaught, and the upcoming story Legacy of the Sith.
Exactly how are they connected?
Because, like I said, in general, I've said that SWTOR, the people behind SWTOR, were huge fans of the Tales of the Jedi stuff. They get a whole lot of reference, even in the main story, like Darth Thanaton mentions the ancient Sith, like Naga Sadow, Luda Crash, Exar Kun, Frida Nad, and then they also feature like the old planets that are in Tales of Jedi, like Ossus, Onderon, so things like that.
yeah, Onderon definitely it appears in the Old Republic. Like, in Onslaught is one, and the Cartoon Market as well. So
yeah, and Ossus, which is also in Tales of the Jedi, was in Jedi Under Siege. Oh yeah, Dan Tatooine was also in it, which is also in Tales of the Jedi. Yeah, you also got to see the Beastmasters in the Onslaught, except the Beastmasters were the bad guys this time.
Though Dan Tatooine is from Episode 4, so that's not necessarily a new connection. Yeah, so SWTOR definitely has connections. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2 definitely, because it features Onderon, and of course the Django mentioned previously something regarding the Beast Riders.
I would say Dark Empire because in one of the backstories of Dark Empire, Tom Beich or someone wrote a story about the ancient Old Republic, and then it mentions Exar Kun and Ulic Qel Droma, and they shaped the Republic, blah 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 blah.
The comic that pretty much references the most Tales of the Jedi is Empire's End, because that actually features Onderon as well as mentions about the Beast Riders and several other stuff. So Empire's End is the one that has the most references to this specific story arc.
I would say the Darth Bane trilogy also.
Yeah,
because Bane also goes to Onderon and fights a bunch of Beast Riders. So
Rule of Two in particular.
Yeah.
So
and Bane of the Sith.
Yeah. So the Django, what do you got of your connections? I know you mentioned one from KOTOR too.
Yes. There's also one for. I mean, there's quite a few in KOTOR 1. I think in Korriban you can actually get the Rose of Ulic Qel Droma
Yes,
for some reason in Korriban. Coder 2, there is quite a lot because, like I mentioned before, Onderon is a world that you can visit, which I think is the best part of Coder 2. The fact that you can revisit that, go to the walled city, and then you can also learn about the history. One person will, I think, one or a few people will actually tell you about that history, and like I mentioned with the Bomo beasts and you can actually go to another planet, the moon of Duxon, and encounter the Mandalorians there, which is pretty awesome, and encounter Bomo beasts and so forth. So after you first go to Duxon, and then you actually go to Isis or Easy's, whatever you want to call it. And
You mentioned how in Coder 2 you can pretty much ride the Boomas just like Todd pretty much did it here.
yes, and I wanted to mention another thing too is with when you go to Duxon, you can actually go to the tomb of Frida Nad as well.
That's something.
You can also get Frida Nod's yellow lightsaber,
That's something.
It's a short lightsaber too, by the way.
which is kind of sad because it said it's Frida Nod's lightsaber, but it looks like every other lightsaber in the video game, so it's only in name only.
Yeah, they were unable to put a specific hilt in the game. Kind of sucks, but oh well. So there's
But
that.
the Jingle mentioned about the beast, and if you're playing the Duxon levels, Freya actually teaches you how to use beast taming skills, which they actually use in this comic.
Yeah, indeed. So
And Mikkel references Ulic Qel Droma. Do I have to explain who the hell Mikkel is?
one might want to do that because
Mikkel is the disciple.
I see. There is that. By the way, you might be a bit surprised on this next EU reference. So Arcania, the adopted homeworld, the Arcania species, first appeared, of course, in Tales of the Jedi. This homeworld has appeared in Yoda Dark Runnerbull, Star Wars Rebellion, and even a few books of New Jedi Order, and was mentioned in Legacy of the Force and Fate of the Jedi. Let that sink in. So, yep, and has even appeared in and has even been mentioned in some of the Knights of the Old Republic comics.
Yeah, so I want to expand on that a little bit more. So there was one arc in Knights of the Republic comics where the statue of Arca Jeth is shown, and you see the Arcanians. They're humanoids with like these white eyes, pretty much, but they can see. But I cannot expand upon it anymore. That's just the only reference that I can remember from that.
And in KOTOR 2, they do mention that one of the Beast Riders do mention that one of the princess has married their people in the game. So, and we actually see that in the comic.
Definitely, yeah.
Ina Manoa does get a reference at Darth Plagueis. Then again, Darth Plagueis does a lot of reference.
Actually, the Darth Plagueis book references a lot from Tales of the Jedi. It references from Frida Nad to Onderon to pretty much referencing the Duxon Moon, like Ulic Qel Droma, though that one's indirect. Like it references a lot from Tales of the Jedi. So no surprise there, because Darth Plagueis references a lot of stuff in regards to, in particular, with the Sith. And Frida Nad definitely was an important one.
Yeah, and there was also Darth Plagueis name dropping Sith that back when Palpatine was wondering if Plagueis' new cybernetics was going to hinder his connection to the Force, and he said it wouldn't be an issue because there were other Sith and other Force users that had cybernetics but weren't severely crippled by it.
There's that.
I think the Old Republic Rebel novel does mention Frida Nod.
I wouldn't be surprised, considering that Coders 1 and 2 do reference Tales of the Jedi to some extent. So it would not be a surprise to me.
There's also the Sith Emperor, Vitiate Valkorian / Tenebrae, whatever you want to call him. He also kind of mentioned ancient Sith like Frida Nad and so on and so forth, but he always kind of mentioned them like he barely acknowledged that they did anything. He was more condescending, like, sure, you did something, but I achieved immortality. I'm basically a god, so yeah, whatever.
There's that. Now, here's one new connection I did not expect whatsoever to be in Tales of the Jedi. So, battle meditation. So, you'd think it first appeared here, but nope. It actually first
Heir
appeared
to the Empire.
Yeah, you took it away from me. Heir to the Empire. So
Yeah, the Thrawn trilogy.
So yeah, Tales of the Jedi pretty much has a new connection with the Thrawn trilogy. That's a surprise.
And then eventually, Knights of the Republic, Bastila would use battle meditation to be instrumental for, that war effort as well.
So, indeed, like Tales of the Jedi did a lot for the expanded universe timeline in regards to not only building a lot of the besides characters, but also the species, plans, and stuff to be built in the future, but also how the Old Republic would become. So yeah, it laid the foundation, and we're gonna be exploring that foundation a lot more in the upcoming weeks. So
Yeah, I bet if Henson was here, he would probably say, "See, if you actually care about continuity, you can actually build something beautiful." Whereas, like today with Star Wars, the people behind like Pablo Hidalgo and Dave Filoni, they don't care about continuity, which is why it's becoming such a mess.
yeah. Oh, also, I forgot to mention that Ulic Qel Droma makes an appearance in Star Wars The Clone Wars 2002 video game as a ghost spirit that presents in front of Anakin and the end of the second level of Ren Bar, which is very interesting. So, there is that. So, anyway, guys, any other EU connections or references they got in mind?
I do have one.
Okay, let's hear.
So, Qel Droma, he gets his arm sliced and he has a robotic arm. So we know other people who have had robotics as well, Luke Skywalker and Anakin Skywalker as well. So, they started from it started from K, and then eventually came down the line, and it seems like everyone wants to have robotic
Prosthetic.
Yeah.
So,
Cybernetics.
yeah. So that is indeed. Qel Droma, he doesn't have that many EU connections. Only the Tales of the Jedi comics, Knights of the Old Republic 1, Timeline 10, the Exarchun War, SWTOR, and Darth Plagueis, an indirect mention. Ulic Qel Droma gets a lot more mentions.
Let's be honest. Who cares about K? Everybody cares about Ulic.
Yeah,
that's true.
K becomes a meme later on. This becomes a meme later on. We'll mention it later because it's a spoiler. But
yeah, we'll mention it later. Oh, here's an interesting thing. I think Doan already mentioned it, but I'm gonna mention it. So apparently, Ulic Qel Droma, he actually was first mentioned in the Dark Empire endnotes. Yeah, apparently there were miniature essays written by Tom Beich exploring the backstory of Dark Empire. So that's actually the first ever mention of Ulic Qel Droma before he first appeared in Tales of the Jedi. That's a surprise.
You see, people, this is how continuity works. If you build upon it, it's called world building. Consistent world building. Let me remind you.
Yep, indeed.
I did it for a very long time, too.
Yep. Indeed. So, any other EU connections?
Not that I know of.
Okay, so with that, now we get into the conclusion. So, who goes first in the conclusion?
I'll go first. Since it's the very first arc of Tales of the Jedi, you don't see much about the Sith or the Jedi, but I'm looking forward to see more of those things. So yeah, I'm excited to read those things.
Is that it?
Yep.
Okay, so who's next?
I can go.
Go, Django.
Okay. All right. So this is it's only 2 issues, very short. But this story arc is a good sample size of what you can expect from Tales of the Jedi. A really good start. It tells the history of Onderon, a very dark history, and it goes into the, introduction of these 3 pretty cool Jedi, and especially Ulic Qel Droma. And then eventually, you get this amazing battle that happens. But overall, it's just a really good arc. I have no issues with it.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Okay, so King, your final thoughts on this story arc?
Yeah, overall, it's basically at heart like a coming of age story, and people these 3 young Jedi coming to realize that the things are a lot bigger and more nuanced than they originally thought it was going to be. Things aren't as easy, and they have a lot to learn and grow from this, and it's going to change them a lot. If people have been following me on my YouTube channel, they know that I'm reviewing Tales of the Jedi on my own. I'm already like issue 7 or 8 at this point, and I just know things are going to get a bit more complicated. I'm not going to spoil more, but I just say the situation has gotten more complicated.
There's that. Anything else?
No, that's pretty much it. I can't really say more.
Okay, so this to me. So Tales of the Jedi, Ulic Qel Droma, The Beast Wars of Onderon. Great first story arc for Tales of the Jedi. Art style is decent, but I definitely have my hopes that it will get better as we go on. And the stories also definitely will get more interesting. So I definitely am excited to see what more Tales of the Jedi has in store, because we got several storylines down the line to tackle. And next week, we're definitely going to be tackling the next story arc, which is going to be, of course, about Nomi Sunrider. So that one's going to be an interesting one. So, but yeah, so Ulic Qel Droma, Beast Wars of Onderon, great story, great start for Tales of the Jedi. Like, I definitely cannot wait to see more, and I definitely do recommend giving this one a read. Now, right now, it's not available in the Legends Epic collections from Marvel. Sadly, they have yet to release the Tales of Jedi Volume 2, which is pretty much going to have the first story arcs Tales of Jedi. So we have yet to get that. So for now, your only ways to reading it is to either getting the original omnibuses from Dark Horse or going online to reading them there. So those are your.
Or you could actually you could just listen to the audiobooks on YouTube, or go to LibriDocs and watch his motion comics.
Actually, the audiobook isn't exactly the same. It does add slash arc to the story, so if you want, just go with the comic.
Which is why I said that you should just watch the motion comic being done by LibriDocs.
Okay.
Go with both. Read compare it to the audiobooks. Audiobooks are great, I must say.
Anyway, so yeah, your options are getting the comic physically, Dark Horse version, or reading it digitally somewhere, or watching the motion comic video that King mentioned. So those are your options right now for the Tales of the Jedi comics. So there's that, and with that, next week we are going to be tackling the next story arc, Tales of the Jedi, with some Nomi Sunrider. Stay tuned to that, and well, we'll see you guys on the next State of Star Wars podcast. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you guys.
Farewell, mortals.